when you're viewing these lectures, there are two things that you have to be able to do. One, you have to be able to find any point on the unit circle, given an angle, okay? And you have to have memorized the 6 trigonometric ratios, okay? With that in mind, let's go back and review a pi over 4 right triangle. Remember, pi fourths is 45 degrees. That means this is an isosceles right triangle. Remember, the special relationship is 1 square root 2. Okay? So if we had to evaluate, say, the sine of pi fourths, we could just use our triangle right here. The sine of pi fourths is opposite over hypotenuse, which is 1 over square root 2. Now, I'm fine with that as an answer, but you might see this answer as, let's see, we can get rid of that square root in the denominator by multiplying top and bottom by square root 2. You may also see it as square root 2 over 2. So I'll show you both. Okay. What would be the tangent of pi over 4? Well, tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay. And how about the cosine pi fourths? Cosine is the adjacent over hypotenuse, which is the exact same thing as the sine of pi over 4. And we could also write that as square root 2 over 2. I will use both of these. Okay. A lot of math books, they do not like square roots in the denominator, so they get rid of it by rationalizing the denominator. But that's okay. Either one's fine. Okay? Here's a tricky problem. Let's find the sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, cotangent of 3 pi over 4. So what we want to do, we want to figure out what point on the unit circle corresponds to an angle of 3 pi fourths. So let me go ahead and draw a unit circle. Okay. Now, let's figure out where 3 pi fourths is. Well, there's 1 pi fourths, 45 degrees. There's another pi fourths. There's another pi fourths. So over here in quadrant 2, there's an angle of 3 pi fourths. So all we have to do is figure out what are the x and y coordinates, okay? And we can just use this unit circle to help us evaluate sine, cosine, tangent, whatever. Well, notice when I create this little right triangle, I know that this is an angle of pi fourths here, right? This is 3 pi fourths, plus an additional pi fourths would be 4 pi fourths, which is pi. So I know that's an angle of pi fourths. Okay. So let's figure out what the x and y coordinate must be. Again, I'm going to use the standard pi fourths right triangle to help us find the actual coordinates here. Remember, the relationship is 1 square root 2. Okay. But what I do know is that this has a hypotenuse of 1. I'm on the unit circle. Okay, so the radius is 1. Okay, so how did I get from the square root of 2 to 1? Well, I just divided this by the square root of 2, right? So we can divide this side by the square root of 2. And similar, I can divide this side by the square root of 2. Now, there's one thing that we have to be real careful about. Notice, this x-coordinate is not positive, right? Because I'm in the negative x direction. So if I wanted this x-coordinate right here, that's going to be negative 1 over square root 2. Okay, it's very important that you get the signs proper. The y-coordinate, that is positive, so that is actually 1 over root 2. So the x-coordinate, negative 1 over square root 2. The y-coordinate, positive 1 over square root 2. Or, of course, you can rationalize the denominator. Okay, either or. So there are the coordinates. Now, we're ready. Sine of 3 pi over 4 That's just the y-coordinate. So I'll go ahead and use this one. Cosine the 3 pi over 4. Well, that's just the x-coordinate. The x-coordinate, remember, was negative 1 over root 2, or negative square root of 2 over 2. See, once you get the point, the rest is easy. Tangent of 3 pi over 4. What was that? That was the y-coordinate over the x-coordinate. Well, they're both the same, but one of them is negative, so that must be negative 1. Okay, right? Square root of 2 over 2 divided by negative square root of 2 over 2 is negative 1. And now I can do the rest. Let's see, what's cosecant going to be? Cosecant 3 pi over 4, that's the reciprocal of sine. So certainly you could rationalize that if you want, but I'm not going to in this case. Secant 3 pi over 4, that's the reciprocal of cosine. And the cotangent of 3 pi over 4, that's the reciprocal of tangent, which is still going to be negative 1. Okay? So the point is, given the angle, you've got to find the point on the unit circle, and then from there it's pretty easy. All right, let's do one more. Let's do this one in degrees. All right. Find the 6 trigonometric ratios corresponding to an angle of negative 45 degrees. Again, let's go ahead and sketch the unit circle. Let's find the angle negative 45 degrees. That's going to be right here. So there's negative 45 degrees. Okay. Again, we get a little right triangle there. Now we have to find the corresponding points. All right. So let's go ahead. I'll draw the same triangle here. If this is 45 degrees, that's what we have here. I remember that my relationship is 1 square root 2. Okay? Therefore, we know that this is 1. So this has to be 1 over square root 2. This also has to be 1 over square root 2, but it's in the negative direction, right? It's in a negative y direction. So that point is the x-coordinate is 1 over root 2. The y-coordinate is negative 1 over root 2. Or you can rationalize the denominator. All right. So again, what we've done, given that angle, we have found the corresponding point on the unit circle. And now we can go ahead and evaluate. So all I need is this, right there. Sine negative 45 degrees, that's the y-coordinate. Cosine negative 45 degrees, that's the x-coordinate. It's pretty simple from here. Tangent negative 45 degrees, well, that's the y over the x-coordinate. That's going to give us negative 1. Cosecant negative 45 degrees, that's the reciprocal of sine. Secant negative 45 degrees is the reciprocal of cosine. And cotangent negative 45 degrees is the reciprocal of tangent. So obviously you need to practice, given an angle, find the point on the unit circle. And then certainly you have to have these memorized too. The sine is the y-coordinate, cosine is the x-coordinate, and the tangent is the y over x. And then these are just reciprocals. Okay? So stay tuned. I think we'll do pi thirds, increments of pi thirds and increments of pi sixths, but we do it the exact same way. Okay? So stay tuned.